Alright guys, yes, I'm talking about the S45VN Para 3 again. I did some more testing on it, and we're going to talk about that today. Now, there is some tape still on here, but as you can see, I did a polished finish on here. I took this up to around 4,000 or 5,000 grit. Went ahead and tested it to see how it compared to the standard 1500 grit testing that I do. And I am going to compare it to S30V and S35. I am going to combine the use and the polished edge retention testing in this video, just so I'm not making two separate videos with overlapping information in each one. Already covered the 1500 grit, which, although it's not the what I consider a really coarse edge like a 600 grit, it's still a coarse edge. Got a lot of bite to it. You can definitely see the scratch pattern. So we'll go ahead and get through the cutting on this real quick and come back and talk about how it did and compare it to the other steels over there. Now that we have that cutting out of the way, since I already talked about sharpening this, only thing I'm going to add to it, you want to know about the sharpening, you can watch the original S45VN edge retention testing video. This polished very easily, had no problems with it whatsoever, didn't have to fight with it, didn't take a long time, came up really crisp and sharp, really nice apex. Only thing I added in on this is I did add a 0.5 micron strop, few passes per side at the end, just for the hell of it, just to make sure we had a nice polish on it. And keep in mind, it doesn't look as good right now. Like I said, it has some tape and other stuff on it, and it has picked up some scratches. This is the same edge that I tested the 1-inch section on, and I have stropped it back and used it since then. So on the first test with a polished edge, 143 feet fine edge, 90 feet working edge, for a total of 233 feet. Sharpened it the same way again, stropped it the same way again. That is the edge it's still wearing from the verification test. And on that test, 140 feet fine edge, 98 feet working edge, for a total of 238 feet. If you go back and compare that to the first test I did on the 1500 grit edge, you will notice I did lose some fine edge with the polished edge. 20, I think the biggest spread, 24 feet. It's a pretty good chunk. It's about a 25% reduction in 20% reduction, somewhere around there. I didn't work out the percents perfectly. We'll call it a 20% reduction. However, the surprising part was it picked up on the working edge. So the total amount cut, we didn't lose anything. Only thing I will say it lost besides the fine edge is it didn't have that same bite that a 1500 grit edge would have. I don't know if there's necessarily a downside to that. I know that different people have different uses, and I am going to do a whole lot more polished edge retention testing, especially with my own personal knives that I still have, that I have tested. That way you guys can get a good idea, whether it be M4, Crewwear, S90V, whatever it is, if I still have it and I've tested it, you'll get to see a polished edge on it. So I was really surprised about that. So I did go back, and just like with the coarse testing, my normal testing, I went ahead and stropped this back after the first test and cut with it again in the same 1-inch section. And I've never talked about this. For those of you that don't know, what I do is I mark tiny dots with Sharpie, take my tape off, strop it back, and then I put tape back on it so I have the same 1-inch section to work from. And as a refresher, with the coarse edge, the strop back, I was able to get another 107 feet cut in the same 1-inch section before it quit cutting 20-pound printer paper against the grain. And with the polished edge, when I stropped it back, I was able to get 118 feet cut before it would no longer cut 20-pound printer paper again. That is a 9%, 9.5% increase over the coarse edge. Now, I do have to return this and the 4V Sheepdog to the owner. I can't test this anymore. I've had it too long already. I am sending it back. I will at some point pick up my own S45 to continue testing on. And like I did on the XHP and the S35VN, I will do 10 times. I will test, then 10 times, strop and cut, strop and cut, strop and cut, to get a better idea of what it will do. What I can say is this S45, not only did it cut a little more than XHP, it sharpens easier than XHP, and it drops back just like XHP. So far, I'm a huge fan of S45. That's why I said in the first video, I'm super happy that this is going to be regular production for the Para 3 PM2, and I hope it works its way onto the Manix Native and Shaman for people who are a fan of that knife. Definitely better than S30V. While there's nothing wrong with S30V, I have no problems with it. I'll continue to use it on knives I really like, and the knives that I do have, don't plan on getting rid of it just because they came out with S45. But it's a very nice upgrade. As far as S35 goes, it's no comparison. The Demco did a little over 200 feet, and the CRK stuff that any of us have tested does close to what this does. The potential's there, but since very few people do S35VN justice as a whole for mass production, this is what we're going to expect from Spyderco for S45. It absolutely blows away S35VN. Now, after the polished testing, I did use this for another week. And let me see here. You can see that it's got a rough spot there, but I'd expect that after all the cutting that I did. Then I've stropped it back a couple times since then, and the amount of box plastic cutting that I've done for moving with this since then, I have zero complaints about this. The first edge, which would have been edge 5 that I used for use to see how it did, I can already tell you there isn't maybe the one S30V that did really well, but your average S30V would not have kept up with the cutting that this did. I purposely cut things besides what I had to, and if I had boxes to break down from stuff we weren't using for moving or that we were getting rid of, way more cutting than I would have put S30V through in a month, just in the 3.5 weeks I used this at the house getting my stuff together for moving. Huge fan of it. If you haven't tried it out, it's definitely worth trying out. Definitely puts the price of this in a much better category now. I'd be perfectly happy to have this over XHP. I have no issues with it whatsoever. I still like XHP. Not gonna just like my S30V stuff, I'm not gonna get rid of my XHP stuff. But S45VN, since there isn't a lot of XHP out there anymore, it's a great stand-in. I'm willing to bet it's definitely going to be much more stain resistant than XHP was. That I'll have to do some actual testing on with XHP I have and when I get my own S45. But so far, absolutely love this steel. It's a great base steel, and things keep progressing the way they are. This is the kind of stuff we have to look forward to. This is awesome performance for your base Para 3 PM2 steel to perform. When I get my own, I'm definitely going to do edge stability testing and impact resistance testing on it. See how that does. And I will try to get a hardness on this before I send it back real quick. And might do some hardness on some other stuff I have that has not been tested to give you guys an idea. You guys know I love this knife. It's super comfortable. This 20CV, however, actually cut a little bit less than this S45. And if I had my choice, I could have this RSK and S45 over the 20CV. I'd take the S45 all day long. Great steel. Those of you that have it, those of you that have used it, let me know how you like it down below. Any questions or comments, drop them in the comments section as well. That's all I have for this one. As always, I appreciate your time, and thanks for watching.